to see a unified expression of solidarity with Kashmir by all of you who are present in BC. However, I would take this opportunity to suggest that next time when we get together like this, and I hope a point was raised that it should be on monthly basis, I concur. We should also invite our associations in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and as far up north as Yukon territories. Let's make a unified stand, a unified forum. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today is a day to express solidarity with the people of Kashmir. This day is observed to extend political, moral, and diplomatic support to the oppressed people of Kashmir who have suffered enormously and have been brutalized by India since 1947. Over 8 million Kashmiris have been turned into prisoners in their own very homes, with more than 900,000 troops of Indian armed forces deployed in a small part like Kashmir, holding the entire nation of Kashmir as hostage. The government and people of Pakistan, no matter where they are, hold Kashmir and people of Kashmir dear to their hearts. The issue of Kashmir is not only an unfinished partition agenda, but it has broader human dimensions as well under UN Charter and UN Security Council resolutions regarding inalienable rights of the Kashmiri people. A student of history of the subcontinent would know how the people of Kashmir have been repressed since 1947 by India. The repression by Indian armed forces is not only brutal, but is merciless and is true representation of crimes against humanity. A perpetual state of war crimes is being systematically executed by India and its state institutions. The Kashmiri struggle for the right of self-determination is characterized by defiance, resilience, courage, and forbearance. Since the occupation of Kashmir by India, the patience and determination of the people of Kashmir has not dimmed, despite unprecedented sacrifices. Since 1989 and the launch of Kashmiri Intifada, their zeal for their inalienable rights has attained new heights. The people of Kashmir continue to raise their voice against atrocities, barbarism being committed against them by India. The brave and proud people of Kashmir have not bowed to an inhuman onslaught by the occupational armed forces of India. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been more than 18 months since India's actions of August 5, 2019, which revoked the autonomy of Kashmir, came into effect. This has resulted in massive deployment of troops, curfew, communication blackouts, including shutting down of the internet, phones, arbitrary detention of thousands of Kashmiris, including political leaders, activists, journalists, lawyers, and to a greater extent, even potential protesters who have not even come on roads. Curbs on peaceful protests, restriction on even children going to school, and people seeking medical care in defiance of the international human rights instruments have also been imposed. The designed demographic change to silence the voice of Kashmiris is the most dangerous and an abhorrent criminal act which has been perpetrated by India against the indigenous population of Kashmir. These changes are being carried out through promulgation of illegal domicile rules, changes in property laws, and downgrading the status of native languages. Incentives are being offered to Indian citizens to settle on the occupied lands of Kashmiris in violation of international law, particularly the 4th Geneva Convention. India continues to use its draconian sedition and counterterrorism laws to silence peaceful dissent at individual as well as non-governmental organizations levels, targeting those who have been critical of India's action or policies. The Indian government action has received widespread condemnation from international human rights bodies, including United States Congress, European Parliament, UN Human Rights Council, Human Rights Watch, and OIC Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission. Even today, the Voice of America's press release or a press statement reflected negativity at net disconnection in Kashmir. According to the South Asia Director of Human Rights Watch, instead of addressing growing attacks on minorities, Indian authority bolstered their efforts to silence critical voices. The OIC, an independent permanent human rights commission, has conveyed its dismay and strong condemnation over the continued ongoing human rights violations in the occupied territories of Jammu and Kashmir. In its statement, the OIC have also stated that Indian government has deployed more than 500,000 security personnel to contain the backlash against its illegal measures, which has practically turned the Indian occupied Kashmir into the biggest open prison in the world, parallel to what Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime did during World War II. There are confirmed reports of India inflicting collective punishment in form of unmarked graves, night raids, which have very severe negative impact on the people, gang rapes, house-to-house searches, stripping of young men and women, closure of businesses and schools, shutting down of internet and landlines, and detention, torture of politicians, journalists, and human rights activists by the Indian security forces is rampant. The infamous and inhuman laws of Armed Force Special Powers Act and Public Safety Act of India enables Indian security forces to trample human rights of innocent Kashmiris with complete and absolute impunity. India has not honored its international commitments as per international norms, which in itself is against the United Nations Charter and relevant UN Security Council resolutions. Respecting its commitment to the international law is indispensable for durable peace and security in South Asia at the behest of the Indian state. The issue of Kashmir and India's action therein has bedeviled peace in the region. It may have grave consequences for the future of not only South Asia, where 1/4 of the world population lives and is the poorest region in the world, but it has global implication, not only economically, but security and militarily as well, because both India and Pakistan are nuclear capable states. It is incumbent upon all of us to continue to highlight the Kashmir issue, especially the human rights violation, until Kashmiri sufferings are over and they finally are granted right of self-determination as per the UN security resolutions. I am deeply grateful and I'm honored to all of you who have been strong voices of people of Kashmir in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon territories, as well as the other provinces of Canada. That being said, the solution, which has been raised quite a number of times as to what could be the solution. Ladies and gentlemen, the solution is talks, negotiations, irrespective of the non-state actors who have the will and the means to destroy any peace effort. There are people on both sides of the border who do not advocate peace. Unfortunately, at this stage, even within the Indian state government, most of these elements are not looking for peace. They believe in coercive diplomacy, they believe in bullying, and they believe in a very dangerous theory which has already brought this world once to the brink of total destruction during World War II. And I would identify that as Nazism of Germany, fascism of Italy during World War II. We must keep negotiating. There is no other option. Kashmir needs to be resolved. It has to come to a logical conclusion with mutual respect for each other and the wishes and the will of the Kashmiri people, which is primary and is at the heart of this issue. Now, I would also like to address a few comments which were raised regarding the EU Disinfo Lab. India has initiated a strategic initiative under which disinformation is being spread. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not something new. If you read history, if you read into it, during World War II, there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Goebbels, the information minister of Adolf Hitler, who advocated this theory and this philosophy and this strategy, which India is now implementing in Kashmir to put a shade over the world's eyes, to not let them see the truth. And it covers that up with a very, very sweet covering of economics, of commercialism, of business in India. Ladies and gentlemen, money can never buy peace. That is guaranteed, and that is an unwritten law. I also agree that we must include people in such discussions who are of non-Pakistani origin. I would like to take this opportunity to request all of you to give me the list, give me your names, give me your contacts. Who would you think would join us to convey this issue to the right people within the Canadian system, within the global affairs? And I would go to them myself with you so that we can have what you desire to do. Another aspect which I would like to leave it as a question mark, since it is such a pleasure to see all of you together, is there is a requirement of a Kashmir Council so that we can focus together on the issue of Kashmir and we remain on one page. I can suggest that all the associations can designate an individual from their setup and convert it into a Kashmir Council, and we can have a physical meeting or a Zoom meeting with the kindness of Mr. Naveed, and establish this organization. We should now, again, Dr. Rana was saying, we should now approach this issue in a more cohesive, concerted, and in a systematic manner together. Individually, we can do whatever we want, but there are certain objects, there are certain subjects, there are certain things on which we should act as one. And I suggest that we should look into it and you should discuss it amongst yourself. And my office is here to facilitate the establishment of such an organization or a council which should represent all of you on Kashmir. And that the council should have this agenda to bring out the names of, let's say, academics, intelligentsia, literati, people who matter, who are more inclined towards the brutality which India is doing. Let's get together. आप इसको सोचिए, आप इस पे गौर कीजिए. ये मैं एक ओपन क्वेश्चन आप सबके लिए छोड़ रहा हूँ. मुझे निहायत खुशी है एंड मुझे बहुत फख्र है कि आप सब लोग इकट्ठे कश्मीर के लिए अपनी सॉलिडेरिटी शो कर रहे हैं. मेरी तरफ से आपके लिए my personal compliments, my personal appreciation, and I thank you all for this. With nuclear weapons in our pockets, war is no longer an option. याद रखिए, Azerbaijan, Armenia, they are not nuclear states. China और इंडिया के दरमियान में जो उनके पहाड़ी इलाकाजात में जो उनकी recent confrontation हुई है, वो भी skirmish थी, एक झड़प थी. वो भी उसको उस लेवल तक नहीं ले जा सकते जहां पे आप जंग का ऐलान करें, और जंग सोल्यूशन भी नहीं है। मैं 3 साल हिंदुस्तान में भी रहा हूं, मेरी पोस्टिंग इंडिया में भी रही। मैंने हिंदुस्तानी इंटेलिजेंसिया को काफी माकूल समझा, सुनने वाले लोग हैं, समझने वाले लोग। अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो ये हुकूमत है, इसकी फिलॉसफी और इसकी अप्रोच, मैंने अपनी टॉक में पहले भी कहा है, इट इज लाइक अ नाज़ी और अ फाशिस्ट अप्रोच। मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि हिंदुस्तान के जो सिटीजन्स हैं वो अपने राय, अपने वोट के पावर से कोई ऐसा सेटअप लेकर आए जो अमन, तरक्की और प्रॉस्पेरिटी इस खित्ते के लिए लेकर आए। इमेजिन करें कि अगर हिंदुस्तान पाकिस्तान के हालात on a mutually respectable grounds, and I underscore mutually respectable grounds पे हल होते हैं, with which is the most important thing is the within the wishes and the wills of the Kashmiri people. तो मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि पाकिस्तान needs to go to the world, हमारा बिजनेस हमारे बॉर्डर्स पे ही खत्म हो जाएगा। मैं मुआशियाती बिजनेस, आज इमरान खान साहब ने एक स्टेटमेंट दी जो अखबारों में आई है, उसको ऑफिशियली तो मुझे नहीं पता चला। ये तो कश्मीरियों का डिसीजन है कि उन्होंने किधर जाना है, आजादी चाहिए, पाकिस्तान के साथ आना है, वो उनका अपना डिसीजन है। लाइक आई सेड, म्यूचुअली रिस्पेक्टेबल ग्राउंड्स हो जिसमें कश्मीरी पीपल, जो कश्मीर के लोग हैं, उनकी जो विश एंड विल को सामने रखा जाए। आई हैव नो डाउट इन रिट्रीटिंग माई सेल्फ दैट वॉर इज नो लॉन्गर अ सोल्यूशन फॉर आइदर पाकिस्तान और फॉर इंडिया, बिकॉज the ramification of that war, उसकी कीमत ना हम अदा कर सकते हैं, ना हिंदुस्तान अदा कर सकता है, एंड ना दुनिया अदा कर सकती है, क्योंकि न्यूक्लियर एक्सचेंज का इम्पैक्ट सिर्फ इन दो ममालिक की हदूद में नहीं रहेगा। सो negotiation on mutually respectable grounds with a government in India which consider India as India, not as Hindustan. India was a secular, democratic country. Now it is Hindustan, a non-democratic, non-secular country where the philosophy of Adolf Hitler is almost worshipped, and the strategies of his media minister Goebbels is in force to put a blanket over कश्मीर में क्या हो रहा है। ये जो आपके सामने वो जो EU डिसइंफॉर्मेशन लैब के डॉक्यूमेंट्स निकले, वेरी राइटली सो, उस पर बात ही नहीं हुई, लेकिन we tried to put it on the media. It came out in the media. The Kashmir Council or the Kashmir Coordination Council, whatever it is, we need to reorganize it. We need to put actual boots on the ground in a very systematic and a non-violent way, कि हम अपना पॉइंट भी बनाएं, अपना नैरेटिव भी कन्वे करें और वो अगले सुने भी। Wherever it is, I am always there for you. War is not a solution.